Welcome to the Feather River Rail Society Operating Department Hand Signal Training Video. The Society operates the Western Pacific Railroad Museum at Portola. I'm Kerry Cochran, the General Superintendent for the museum. This video will demonstrate the hand signals we use at the museum to ensure the safe, efficient operation of our equipment. Our mission at the museum is to replicate a 1950s railroad. Radios were in very limited use at that time, so we want to primarily use hand signals in our operation and minimize the use of radios. Our primary focus is to provide safe operation for our visitors, our crew, and our equipment. A fundamental requirement for this is to maintain a safe environment and establish and maintain clear communications amongst all our crew members. This set of hand signal plays a critical role in achieving this goal. This video is meant to supplement, not replace, our rules and bulletin books. So whether you are a new member to our operating department, a seasoned veteran, or an interested visitor to our society, please join me as we demonstrate the commonly used hand signals at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum at Portola.
The stop signal is given by swinging your arms below your waist at a right angle to the line of sight of the engine crew. For an emergency stop, swing your arms violently. The stop signal can be given one-handed when appropriate. The come to me hand signal is used to have the locomotive come toward you. If you're a long way from the locomotive, use a big signal so you can be easily seen. You circle your arms in the plane of your body as if motioning a person to come toward you. Note from the side view how the arms circle in the plane of your body. This signal can become very hard or impossible to read if the arms are in front of your body. If you are close to the locomotive and want the locomotive to come either a short distance or slowly, use a little come-to-me hand signal. When appropriate, the signal may be given one-handed.
The go away from me and the come to me hand signals are closely related. The same principles apply to both signals. In the go away from me signal, the arms are moved in the opposite direction as if motioning someone to go away from you. Use a big or little signal as appropriate for the desired movement. The easy signal cuts the train speed by 1/2. 2 easies will reduce the speed to 1/4. 3 easies is the same as a stop. The signal is given by extending the arms at shoulder height, bringing them to vertical, and returning. We now see the easy signal again from the front. The red zone is the area between standing equipment with a separation of 50 feet or less. This includes the space between coupled standing equipment when coupling air hoses and cutting in the air. This signal is given over the level of the head at a right angle to the line of sight of the engineer or engine crew member receiving your signal, and with the thumbs pointed downward. The red zone signal is given before going into the red zone. The red zone signal is not a relayable signal. After receiving a red zone signal from a ground crew member, the engineer sets the independent brake and centers the reverser. The engine crew indicates it is safe to go between the cars by extending an arm out the window with the thumb pointed down. The ground crew indicates they are clear of the red zone by establishing eye contact with the engine crew, extending their arms in front of their body with fingers pointed down, and moving their hands as if shaking off water. After receiving the ground crew's clear red zone signal, the engine crew gives a one-handed wave out the cab window to acknowledge the ground crew is clear of the red zone. To have the engine crew set the brakes, one hand is moved back and forth in a straight line in front of the body as if setting the dinner table. The signal is usually used to conduct a brake test prior to a train being moved. To have the engine crew release the brakes, one hand is moved up and down. You can think of this as taking the dirty dishes off the table and throwing them over your shoulder into the kitchen sink. Pass movement control to another crew member. Extend your arms with index fingers pointing at the crew member who is to assume control of the movement. The second crew member acknowledges with the highball general acknowledgement signal and assumes control of the movement. A common use of the couple up signal is for the conductor to authorize the brakeman to tie onto a string of cars. After the conductor checks the other side of the train to be sure it is safe to do so, he clasps his hands over his head. The brakeman repeats the same movement as the acknowledgement that he understands he is authorized to tie on. The pin signal is used when unable to release a pin because the knuckle is under tension. It is given by raising one fist with the thumb pointed upward. Once the engineer has released the tension, immediately give a stop signal while lifting the pin. You may then give a go away from me to complete the movement. The stretch signal is used to pull a coupler tight to make sure the pin has dropped and the knuckle is locked. The signal is like a very small go away from me where it looks like you are flicking water off the ends of your fingers. We use the same signal for all moving, highball the air. It also serves as a general purpose signal acknowledging that the proper response was obtained or observed. One hand is raised and a friendly wave is given as the signal. In this video, the conductor is informing the head end crew the last car is moving. The line switch signal instructs a crew member manning a switch to throw the switch for movement. It is given by extending one arm with one finger pointing down, which is moved in a circular movement. In this video, note how the switch tender properly throws the switch, then checks the points, then moves into a safe position at least the height of the switch stand away from the switch before giving the come to me signal for the locomotive. The line behind signal is used to instruct the switch tender to line the switch after the train passes through the switch. It is given by a line switch signal followed by moving the hand to the lower back. The set or release handbrake signal is given by moving an imaginary steering wheel back and forth. If the brake is set, release it. If it is not set it. In this video, note the use of the highball signal at the end to inform the other crew member the action was performed as instructed. The getting on hand signal is given when boarding a piece of moving equipment. It is given by extending your arms at waist level and making a lifting motion twice with palms facing upward. When given, the engine crew must sufficiently reduce their speed for the ground crew to board safely. Once the ground crew has boarded the moving equipment, the engine crew may resume their previous speed. Never board a train if it is moving too fast. Tie down and shut down locomotive. While facing the engine crew, hold both fists at chest height in front of and close to your body with thumbs pointing up. We are now ready to demonstrate a typical yard movement. After receiving the couple up signal from behind our view, the brakeman used a "come to me" signal to have the locomotive come in to tie onto the caboose. He gives an easy signal to reduce the speed of the locomotive by 1/2. As the locomotive approaches the caboose, he checks that the couplers are open to tie on. Just as the knuckles approach each other, he gives a stop signal. To be sure the pin has dropped and the tie-on was successful, he gives a stretch signal followed immediately by a stop as soon as the coupler stretches. He does not want to slide the wheels of the caboose. To go between the cars, he gives a red zone signal and waits until the engine crew acknowledges set and centered. While between the cars, note that only 1 foot goes inside the rails. After exiting the red zone, the brakeman signals he is clear and the engine crew acknowledges.
For a stop, lantern is swung at right angles to the track. For an emergency stop, swing violently. To have the locomotive go forward, the lantern is raised and lowered vertically 2 times. The person giving the signal must know which direction the engine is facing before giving the signal. To back up the locomotive, swing the lantern slowly in a circle 2 times at a right angle to the track. An easy signal is given by swinging overhead in a slight arc.
Rule 108. In case of doubt or uncertainty, the safe course must be taken. Rule 1700. Use of hand signals during daytime movements and lantern signals during nighttime movements are the preferred forms of communication. Crews are strongly encouraged to minimize the use of radios for non-emergency traffic. 1701. For the purpose of lantern and radio communication, the definition of ahead is travel in the direction of the end of the locomotive that has the F lettering. In general, the engineer is seated on the right side of a locomotive when facing forward. Rule 1702. Proper hand signal usage requires always be on the lookout for hand signals. Do not act on any signal that is not understood or not intended for your movement. Always comply with the intent of the signal given. Always tell the engine crew when you are going from hand signals to radio or radio back to hand signals. Rule 1703. Employees given hand or lantern signals must remain in a position to be clearly seen by the engine crew. If necessary, hand signals, except red zone, may be relayed. If a crew member controlling a movement goes out of sight of the engine crew, all movement must be stopped, unless one of the following occurs. The employee tells the engine crew they are going to radio, or the employee is seen by the engine crew passing control of the movement to another crew member in sight. The second crew member is seen to acknowledge accepting control of the movement.